Excellencies, Majesties, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, another...
If the ANC wants to survive, it must show in the practical actions that it takes, so that the people themselves can say, this is a renewed ANC. Not because the ANC says so, but because its deeds say so. These are two major challenges: the renewal of the ANC and the use of state power by the ANC to do the right thing. That answers the question, what is to be done? The point that has been made, that we should avoid all violence and things like that. And I watched a little bit when Julius talked about the demonstrations yesterday, and himself made this commitment that they don't want violence. And if there's any violence that happens, that it would have been provoked by somebody else. I think that common commitment by the people, the organizers, and the rest of the country is correct. By all means, I think people should demonstrate if they want to demonstrate on whatever the issue. But let's avoid this kind of unnecessary conflict. The country doesn't need it.
Thank you so much, Mbeki.
Number of issues. It's quite clear that there was systematic intervention in ESCOM to make sure that this ANC government does not have the electricity it needs. All the stories you hear about whatever happened at ESCOM are not correct. I'm saying that, Comrade Tammy, don't be counter-revolutionary. Let that report be circulated so the people can see what actually happened. These are not thumbsucks. Comrade Tammy mentioned a presentation by Ismail Momongat at the TRC. It's on the commission, sorry, not TRC. It's on the commission, quite right. Where he was talking about the Finance Intelligence Center Act and how it was delayed for a long time. The reason it was delayed is because that bill referred to politically exposed persons. It said this one must happen regarding financial intelligence, but politically exposed persons must be dealt with in a particular way. It meant that the ministers who were processing the bill were prohibited from doing business with government as business people. That's why they delayed this thing in order to remove this thing about politically exposed persons. Because it was against their interests as private persons. So, unfortunately, Tammy in editing left out all of those things. But he was talking about when private interests of ministers took precedence over national interests. This country is grey listed now. It was under threat of grey listing then because the ministers were refusing to approve this bill because it was prohibiting them as individuals wearing a business hat of doing business with government. That was the problem. The CEO here of the foundation was telling me as we were coming that yesterday he had some interaction with some young intellectuals, South African, speaking various languages, Setswana, Zulu, Xhosa, Venda, this and that and the other. And they were discussing what is the word in Setswana for xenophobia. You know, it doesn't exist. In Zulu, So in all the African languages that were spoken by this group, they all say, no, we don't know what the word is. in our African languages for xenophobia. Why? It's because it's not in the culture, it's not in the history, it's not in the whatever among Africans. And yet I'm saying, like the American lady, we've allowed somebody else to tell us that was xenophobic. And we believe it. In the State of the Nation address, I apologize again on behalf of government. What Tammy was talking about is that there was an SIU, Special Investigation Unit, which investigated elements of things going wrong in ESCOM, which was established in 2014. That SIU reported to the President in 2017 on the matters it was mandated to investigate at ESCOM. But in passing, it came across this information about what had happened in January 2008, the things for which I had apologized. And they said it was deliberate from inside ESCOM. That power failure should never, ever have happened. Because ESCOM had an internal monitoring system to watch the amount of coal at each power station. Because the regulation was that there must be at least 22 days supply of coal at each power station at all times. The station managers, so the internal system watching each power station from November 2007 started saying to the managers, you are running out of coal, replenish. And they ignored it. The reason there was a power failure in January 2008, they ran out of coal. The station managers would not just go and buy coal. And you read the literature, not that failure of government, nothing to do with government. They raise this issue as an example. There's a whole document, I don't know, maybe it's counter-revolutionary, that is not being distributed. There's a whole document on ESCOM. This is just one instance of a deliberate intervention to make sure that there's no electricity. Many. For instance, the government took a decision and announced in 2004 that there must be built these new power stations, Kusile and Medupi, that Tammy was talking about. If you look at the reports of ESCOM, they say we started building Kusile in 2007. Not Kusile, Medupi, in 2007. So that's a bit strange. What's strange about that is that the government issues an instruction in 2004 to ESCOM to build Medupi and Kusile, and they only act 3 years later. Why?